Okay, so day 4. Now you're at the point where you're in that Roth IRA cycle, and that's what we want to talk about. Hopefully, you have a team and you're having these conversations. I think that's probably among the best things because, and again, in that tussle phase that we talked about with the Roth and the IRA process, where are you at right now? Let's just say that you've chosen a destination, you've chosen a nonprofit, you've chosen a theme. Being able to know where you are is important because sometimes, like, just acknowledging, you're like, okay, before I get upset, I realize that now I'm in my second ideation and I need to reflect. Or now that I've reflected, I need to acknowledge what do I need to adjust. Or I'm going to scrap everything and I need a new realization. I need a fresh start. Because, like, let me give you full permission. It's okay sometimes to quit. Sometimes you think you have a good idea, and the more you work on it, you're like, wait, this wasn't as good an idea as I thought. That's okay. So that's to have these conversations now and to know where you're at is super important. Here's your homework, other than also the video that I'm about to show for you, is discuss with feedback your team. How can you iterate the next phase? Maybe you need a new Roth. Maybe you need a new realization. Maybe you need new open discussions, and it's okay to say this isn't working out. Those tough conversations early will allow you to either fail early and fail often to where you can get too successful, or having those uncomfortable conversations will force you to make some pivots and make a different iteration, as we talked about earlier. I believe in the Roth IRA process. I've seen it work again and again and again for a lot of people, and so hopefully you can have that. The other thing I wanted to do, and I'm excited for this, we were going to have him on earlier, but we had to delay this a little bit. We're going to have on Alex Banayan. Alex has got one of those rare books out there that just, his story is amazing. He actually researched how to win Price is Right, and that he was going to take his winnings to be able to fly all over the country and interview his mentors, his people that he looked up to, from Warren Buffett to Lady Gaga to Bill Gates, and the list goes on and on. And he wrote about this in a book called The Third Door. I asked him, because I think he was one of the kings of this, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to ask my students, that macro and micro network that we talked about earlier in the lesson, how do you write those emails? How do you find those people? And do you reach out to some of these A-list all-stars? And if you don't, who should you choose? So Alex has got some wonderful insights on not necessarily asking Justin Bieber for advice, but instead asking your local DJ, and why that is really smart and intelligent. And then lastly, he's just got a template on how to write a killer email to get you noticed and hopefully start building up your network and your advisory and things of that nature. So I'm extremely excited for you to bring that. Other than that, tomorrow we're actually going to talk more about social media, and we're going to have on one of the kings of social media marketing and knowing how to get things done, Dennis Yu. But until then, I will see you tomorrow. But right now, thoroughly enjoy Alex Banayan. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, so now we're with Alex Banayan. Alex, I'm excited for you to drop some knowledge on some of our students. We had just talked about a macro and micro network, and then how to find people to either collaborate with you or get some leverage and learn from. You have not only made an art of it, you wrote a book about it. Give us a little bit of background on The Third Door.
A little bit of background is that when I was 18 years old, a freshman in college, I set off on a quest that ended up going for 7 years, where I went and tracked down some of the world's most successful people and tried to figure out how they launched their careers. So how did Bill Gates sell his first piece of software? How did Steven Spielberg become, the youngest director in Hollywood history? And, it took me a while. It took me 2 years to track down Bill Gates. It took me 3 years to track down Lady Gaga. But that whole adventure and the lessons that I learned throughout all came out in the book, The Third Door, which came out about 1.5 years ago.
Love the book, and thank you for doing some podcasts with us. So right now we're talking to them, and they're like, okay, some of them have an idea of what they want to do, and without a doubt, we want them to be able to reach out to local people, because that's a lot of times where you find your best leverage and some of your most influential and helpful people, but also getting and inspiring them to think a level beyond. What are some things that they should think about when they want to dream up a person that they would love to have at least 10 minutes of insight from? How do they go about that?
Well, the world's in a different place now than it was a few months ago. And, there's a different answer depending on, when someone's listening to this. So, right now, we're recording this in the, the beginning stages of the coronavirus pandemic. And, there's of course a lot going on, but on this specific topic, if you do, if you're, in high school and you want to, reach out to mentors, reach out to people you admire and learn from them, it's not a bad time to do it. And, number one, you're not going to see them in person, so you can get that out of your mind. But a lot of people who you've always dreamed of maybe talking to, they're home right now and they're sitting with their phone in their hands. Now they're probably not idle. They're probably not, dwindling their thumbs. People are working on, important stuff, whether it's family wise, health wise, business wise. But, if there ever was a time to write a really thoughtful cold email or an Instagram DM that's really thoughtful, and ask someone for advice, especially if, you're in high school and you want to, start a business or start a project or get into the arts or, create anything, this is a good time to do it. Now, you had sort of, touched on this slightly, which is I'm a big believer in, the best, if you want to be a musician, the best mentor for you is not, necessarily to reach out to Justin Bieber. It might be the radio DJ of your town, because that radio station DJ has met all of the musicians who have come into town to, go onto the radio station, so knows the industry, and also has the time to jump on the phone with you. Also has the time to get to know you as a human being. It took me a long time to realize that the more famous someone is does not correlate with how good of a mentor they'll be for you. But it's a natural thought to think, the best person to teach me about business is Bill Gates.
Right. No, I love that. Because in a lot of cases, even their gatekeepers could vouch for you. Because like you said, it took you 2 or 3 years to get to some of the people that you wanted to interview, but your gatekeepers were singing your praises in some cases, and you kind of worked your way up. And like you said, probably for these students, we're hoping that their golden ticket, so to speak, is they're doing something. Because I know that I get a decent amount of emails of, will you mentor me? Well, I hate to sound cold, but like, what's in it for me? Like, I'm very busy. Like, sure, let me set aside 2 hours of time that I don't have, as opposed to somebody saying, hey, I want to help the foundation. How can I help? And in addition, can I get some mentorship? You being on a mission is kind of what this whole course is. What are you going to do with the mindset you're armed with? So I love the fact that, don't necessarily ask for Bieber yet. Ask to some of the people that he's either interviewed or worked with, or like you said, your local DJ is a great idea.
You'd be surprised if you're a musician how powerful the local radio station DJ is.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, because they're probably a part of a network, and
and they just, if they've been in the business for a while, 10 years, 20 years, they've just seen everyone come through.
That's really good. So when you said this is also now a time to include a cold email, we talked a little bit about it. Like, don't just have a list of things that me. What are some things that should be in a cold email?
Okay, I'll make it super specific. This is for anybody who wants to email someone you don't know and you don't even have a mutual friend. Ideally, if you're want to reach out to someone, you find a mutual friend or someone you know who knows them to, email them and say, hey, would you be open to talking to Alex? But, when you're starting out, many times you don't have that luxury. So what I've done and what, many, many people have done is you send a cold email. And this is how you do a cold email. The best subject lines, let's just even start from the subject line, is a few words. 2 words is great. Try to make it no more than 5 words. A question is great, like your advice, question mark. High school project, question mark, like something that now the worst subject line on earth is a misleading subject line. Like, let's say it says,
my least favorite is, can I pick your brain?
Can I pick your brain? Yeah, but even worse is something that's misleading. Like if you write like coronavirus help question mark and your email is like about your t-shirt company.
Right.
It's just like, that's
clickbait
like
turns everybody off. Yeah, right.
Yeah. You definitely got someone to open it, but then they didn't respond. Yeah. Anyways, so that's subject line. Something, genuine, authentic, but that's a question and that's short. All right, here's what you write in the email. You don't have to be creative and try to like make this better or fancier. This is like baking. Follow the recipe and it works pretty well. Dear so-and-so, if you're 16 and you're emailing someone who's older, Mr., Miss is actually somewhat appropriate. If, it's, the president of a bank, that's okay. You sort of have to try to gauge it yourself. I emailed Wolfgang Puck and I called him Wolfgang and his assistant got pretty mad. But, again, just gauge it for yourself. Dear so-and-so. This is the first paragraph. I know you're incredibly busy and you get a lot of emails, so this will only take 60 seconds to read. Boom. Next paragraph is only 2 sentences long. And in these 2 sentences, you're going to explain who you are and what your background is or what you're doing that's relevant to this person. This is not your life story. So let's say you're emailing someone who graduated from your high school and is now the local radio DJ, radio station DJ. You would say, my name is so-and-so. I'm a sophomore at your alma mater, blah, 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 high school. And my dream is to be a radio DJ like yourself. Boom. All of a sudden, the person has some context. They actually feel connected to you. And you're not hounding them with, like your life story. You might even add a second sentence of, and my parents are also immigrants from India, from Punjab, whatever,
Right, sense of familiarity, yeah.
Again, but it's, giving them context of who you are that's relevant to them. Or something that might not even be relevant to them, but that might be impressive for them. I'm the, valedictorian of my high school. I'm the head of my innovation club, something like that. Okay. Third paragraph is where you put your hyper-specific question for them. Again, 1 to 2 sentences, a question that they can answer without taking a long time to think. The question is, what do you recommend I do with my life to get into music? Like that might take, them hours to have to try to explain. So they might not respond. But if the question is, what's a book you recommend for someone aspiring to work in radio? Like, boom, they can respond to that immediately. And then your final paragraph is the clincher. You say, I totally understand if you're too busy to respond. Even a 1 or 2 line reply will completely make my day. All the best.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. Don't overdo it. If they don't respond, in a couple days, it's okay. If they haven't responded after like 10 days, maybe you can follow up one saying, dear so-and-so, I'm sure you're incredibly busy. I just wanted to gently check in and see if this made it through to you. and then, that's it. If you want to be like super persistent, in a month, send a second follow-up. And then if they still don't respond, that's okay. There's a million other radio station DJs you can email.
Love that. And you're thinking long-term on this, because if they do get back to you and then they start kind of like responding a little more, you can, they might want to, like I've told my students, a lot of times they see themselves in you. If you're persistent, if you're like, because I know it'd be flattering if a student were to call me and is like, hey, I want to be a teacher that teaches an innovation class. You already have my heart.
Right.
And even if I'm super busy, if you give me that sense of familiarity, and if I only had time to give you a list of 3 books that I would read, that's all I'd do. But if they circled back, I'd feel like, good for you, kid.
And this is something Bill Gates taught me. If they, after you give them those 3 books, if in a month they go, dear Don, I read the 3 books. I just wanted to say, they all had such a big impact on me, particularly the second one. It's changed my life in these ways. And I just want to say thank you without even an ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of a sudden you make a mental note. Oh, this student, this person has a lot of potential. And then when they do email you in a few months, like, hi, I'm, thinking about colleges and I don't know which one would be the best to get me to my goal. Do you have a recommendation of a few that I should look into? You're like, yeah. And if you want, like, give me a call and we can talk about it more. All of a sudden it opens it up.
Yes.
But that's the best way you can reach out to someone.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that.
And the less famous, the less well-known, the higher the likelihood of the response.
Well, and I'm sure that you found this. Oftentimes, the most helpful people it's deceptive, right? It's really deceptive, because ironically enough, they just had a lesson from him a couple days ago. Jeff Hoffman is the most weirdly connected person to everybody. Like this weekend, he was with Pitbull. He helped launch Justin Timberlake's career. What does he have a background in? Priceline.com and hotel or airline kiosks. He just is, people would ask him for advice or favors, and then along the way, so he's just relentlessly helpful. And I know I can speak for Jeff, the people that are like, I've got a question, if they're driven, and I'm sure he probably puts people through a litmus test. If it's just like hey, I'm Dave and you need to help me, it's probably an ignore. But very much like what you're talking about, if you win over time and you're playing the long-term game of like, I really do value your opinion and I really do value your time, and I know you're busy. Like what the genius love is, like when you said, if it's a simple thing, that is you just like start learning from them, and B, it may be a relationship later on. Should you be genuine? And I know that you meant that too. And that, like, if they were to assign you 2 books and you wrote back like, yeah, I loved them, boy, you better as heck read them. Because if they ask you really,
people can see through things really quickly.
Absolutely. Because and I know that you know this, there is a difference between pandering and learning. And pandering isn't going to get you far.
Yeah. So, if any students are listening to this and are even just like curious to try this out, my biggest recommendation would be make a list of 10 people in your town that you really admire what they do. And if you can't even think of 10, that's okay. Think of even jobs that you like. Let's say you're interested in politics. Go Google, so-and-so city council, and go look on the city council website. There'll be, 5 different people on the city council. Read their little bios. Like, oh, this guy's a doctor and is on the city council. I like medicine. I'm interested in city council. Great. Like, write her name down, write his name down. If you're interested in, whatever, make that list of 10 and go ahead and, spend a lot of time reading about them and send out those cold emails. And if you get 2 out of the 10 of them to respond, congratulations, you just won the lottery.
I totally agree. And weirdly, and Alex,
and if you do it right, you will get 1 or 2 out of the 10 to respond.
Yep. Well, and Alex, we've actually talked about this previously. And eerily, those 2 people already know one another anyway. I was having a conversation with a super fantastic guy, and I said to him, because basically a guy that he had interviewed and I had come across him, and I go, man, it's a small world. And then Tom goes, no, it's not. He says, like, the amount of people that are right now complaining about politics and your team losing last night is infinite. The amount of people that actually get things done and are driven, that's a small world. And those 2 out of 10 that responded, chances are that they probably already know one another. And then now they have that sense of familiarity with the 3 of you. And I think that's really, really when it starts getting powerful.
Yeah.
Well, I am thrilled. You there? Sorry, I broke up. Well, I was thrilled to have you on, man. I sincerely appreciate you coming on. That was gold. And I love it that the students can learn from the master. And you wrote a book about it, and it's a really good book, by the way. So I hope that they run with this and that tonight they're finding 10 people in their micro and macro networks and then starting to build. So from sincerely, Alex, I just appreciate your time. Guys, check it out. Again, The Third Door is his book. You have been an unbelievably valuable resource for us today.
Thank you.
All right, man.